Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jacob and Coffee Real Estate Podcast, where we talk about all things real estate over a great cup of coffee. Today I'm on the run, so I've got to take this with me, and that little white cup just wasn't going to do it for me. I'm doing the iced coffee thing today. Again, it's another warm one. I wouldn't say hot one, but you'll notice that I've taken kind of a hiatus on the last couple episodes because, first of all, I've been really busy with some work at the church. Last month we had a VBS that we were wrapping up, and so my studio is at the church where I pastor. So this became a storage unit while we were preparing and executing that VBS. So I had no space to do what I would like to do. But anyways, we are back in the flow of things, in the swing. So I have been able to get back to recording some episodes for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about minding your P's and Q's, or dotting your I's and crossing your T's, paying attention to what's going on. And I'm going to share a little bit of experience with you that it wasn't pleasant at the time, but I think it was a learning experience. We deal with contracts now, and this applies to not only agents, but the consumers as well, the clients. If you're shopping for a home, you're going to be dealing with a lot of paperwork. Now, your agent is going to be able to navigate this and give you the information necessary or tell you what it all means as you sign these documents. But still, you are ultimately responsible to read those yourself and to get the gist of what it's saying. So I was making an offer on a property with a client. It wasn't just for me. I was working with a client, and they wanted to make an offer on a property. So I wrote up the contract, and I went over it. And being the second contract that I wrote, I was still am very green. So I looked through everything, thought it looked great, sent it on to my broker. Broker had good faith in me, and they glanced over it and signed off on it. Well, there was something, even with a couple set of eyes, we missed something, and I marked a property to be bought as is. Now, that's not terrible, but when you mark that, you refuse all right to an inspection. So the deal can't fall through because of an inspection item, because you already committed to buying it as is. So not only did it pass through my eyes, but it passed through my broker's eyes, and it passed through one of my broker's eyes, and the client's eyes as well. They read it, and they went ahead and signed it as well. So now I want to say this. I want to clarify. That was my fault. That was all my fault. I know that the case could be made. Well, your broker looked at it too. Well, your client looked at it too. That was my fault. I should not have marked that. And you may wonder why. Why is it such a big deal? Well, something came back. They decided that there was something they didn't like about it, and it would have been an inspection item, and they wanted to terminate. And the other side of the transaction didn't want to terminate over it because we marked as is. And it was a little bit of a hassle to get out of that and finally get a termination letter signed. Now we were able to get it signed without, we didn't have no legal action was taken against anybody. But it stressed me out, taught me a valuable lesson. You've got to pay attention to what's going on inside these contracts. Thankfully, I work in my company, and I say in my company, the Northeast Arkansas Realtor Board, they have, their website is full of instructional material and helps. And I was able to find a video of an attorney who is also a real estate agent, and he goes down through the contracts in great detail. Has 3 separate hour-long videos that break down the contract and really gives you a lot of insight. So part of minding your P's and Q's is know what your contracts say. Not on just a high level. Know what they mean. What does each section mean? And why is it that you mark certain boxes for different reasons? Why is it that they're there in the first place? I think it's important. Taught me a valuable lesson to just really figure out what it is I'm having people sign. And now, granted, you do get that at a very high level when you go get your license. You're told what these things mean, but you're fed so much information in that class that it's very hard to remember everything that you go over. So once you get your license and you're able to pass the test, it's always beneficial to go revisit the things that you learned. Make sure you understand the concepts and not just what the answers were for the test. So be careful and mind what it is that you're marking. And so one way that I find it easier to know to actually understand what you're doing is to try to explain it to somebody. Sometimes my wife will ask me questions about a certain thing on the contract. For instance, when I told her about what I did and marking as is instead of retaining all rights to inspections, she asked what it meant, and initially I couldn't tell her. I mean, I could give her a really broken explanation that ultimately just proved that I needed to read more and study some more about what it meant. But I find that if you take the time to teach it to somebody, you have proven that you know it. You can understand it in a way that where you can change it up and convey it to them, understanding nothing. See, my wife's a nurse, so when she tries to explain something to me, sometimes she uses medical terminology, and I can guess certain things, but there's some things where I just have no idea what she's talking about, and she has to then switch it into layman's terms and say it basically means this. Try to do that with every part of the contract so that when you're signing it with your clients, you are able to explain it to them. Excuse me a minute. The life of a real estate agent. You take every phone call. But anyways, mind your P's and Q's. Mind what you're doing with your contracts. Know what they mean and explain them to your clients because they want to know what they mean too. And it also builds a level of trust because they think, well, they don't just think, you will prove to them that you are knowledgeable about what is going on. You know what you're talking about, and you're not just a fly by the seat of your pants. I'm just doing this because I'm marking this box because I was told to. You'll be able to explain it to them. Some years ago, I used to work at a bank, and I had to help facilitate. I was a loan assistant, and I helped facilitate loan signings. And part of what I was tasked to do was to read what they were signing, and the loan officer would actually go sit down with me and explain what it was that they were signing, so I could then, in turn, explain to the customer. So if you are an agent and you're wanting to know what these things mean, and maybe you can't find a video that explains it for your state, because the videos that I had found were only for the state of Arkansas. Now there are other contracts are very similar to what we offer and what we use. In fact, some states base it off of what we've got. But if you're in a different state, get a copy of your contract and go to your broker and just say, hey, can I get 30 minutes of your time? Can you just kind of explain these things to me? Why do we mark this? In what case would I mark this? And so on and so forth. Let your broker help you understand these things and teach you one-on-one, which is much different than a class setting where you're going to be in a room full of people and maybe you don't want to raise your hand and ask those questions and go down that rabbit hole if you're on a time crunch. But try to set some time aside to ask your broker, hey, what does this mean? And I'm sure they would be more than happy to explain it to you. They love it when agents are willing to learn and willing to get in there and try to put forth some effort. So if you are a home shopper, ask your agent, what does this mean? What does this contract mean? Don't just sign if you don't understand. Read your contract. If you're making an offer, you read that contract and ask, what does this mean? Because we live in an age, sometimes you can, but with e-sign and DocuSign, I could fill out the contract and just send it to my client and never have to be in front of them. They can fill it out without me even there. And whether they read it or not, they can just check the boxes that they're asked to check and click on the button that fills in their signature, and it's valid. I mean, it's completely legal. But I think it's important for you to sit down with your clients when you're making the offer, go over each subject with, again, talking to real estate agents, go over each subject with your clients. Clients, when you're sitting with your real estate agents, have them explain it to you, because it's going to reveal a couple things. It's going to reveal whether or not they actually know what they're talking about. And it's also going to reveal if they actually want to spend the time to service you, how you need to be helped. If you feel maybe a little uncomfortable, because these are huge decisions, life-altering decisions, it is huge for an agent to sit down with their client and to calm some fears, explain some things, because a lot of what we fear is what comes next. I don't know what to expect after this. A good agent is going to be able to walk you through this process. It's going to be able to tell you what to expect next, what to watch out for, how we're going to navigate the next few weeks until closing, or if the offer is accepted, here's what we do. If it's rejected, we can always do this. So there's just a lot of things that an agent can help you with if you've got the right agent. So when you ask this question, if you ask this agent to sit with you and they can't explain it to you, or they don't want to take the time to sit down with you and explain these things and go over what comes next, it's time to find a new agent. And I don't mean to be harsh. I'm just saying, if this is a huge decision that impacts your life, find someone that's going to care. Find someone that's going to care to do a good job, care to mind their P's and Q's. Again, forgive me for using that analogy again, but somebody who's going to care to do it right. So I'll admit that until I made that mistake, I guess I wasn't that agent, but it's a learning opportunity, and it gives me something to shoot for, to become that agent who knows how to explain contracts well, who knows how to care for his client by explaining all the ins and outs of what the contract means and what it means for them. So just a little bit of tips for you today is to try to get in and learn something new about your contracts. Get in there and you can find these on. I'm sure you can find these online. I can get a copy of my state's contract on my board website. So download a copy of the contract. Even clients can do that. You can find copies of contracts to just look over. So something to maybe think about if you want to quiz your real estate agent. Maybe you're gung-ho, maybe you're ambitious about it. Something to think about. But anyways, just get into it, guys. Get into learning more about what you do, learning more about your profession, and I think it's going to always pay off. It will pay off in dividends down the road. When you educate yourself and put into practice what you learn, it always pays off in your favor. Be sure and subscribe on all of the channels we've got. We've got Apple Podcasts, we have Google Podcasts, we have YouTube. We just subscribe on anything that you can. Leave a comment down below. Would love to hear from you. Shoot me a message if you want to talk to me about anything. Always willing to help. But until next time, guys, I want to encourage you all to live life one cup at a time.